Cancer. The sunlight was painfully bright over the cemetery that morning, yet the young woman kneeling in the grass saw none of it. Cancer. Her shoulders trembled as she clutched a weathered gravestone. Cancer. Her tears soaking into the dirt as if she were trying to give life back to the name carved into the stone. She looked exhausted, clothes worn thin. Cancer. Hair messy from the wind. But what struck the man watching from a distance was not her appearance. It was the kind of grief that came from having lost everything. Cancer. He paused mid-step, recognizing the grave she cried over, realizing it belonged to someone he had loved more than life itself. He had come to this place seeking peace. Cancer. But instead he found a stranger begging fate for mercy at the resting place of his wife. That moment, powerful and raw, would change both of their lives forever. Cancer, if you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share. Cancer, and subscribe to the channel Kind Hearts Corner. Your support helps spread hope to more hearts in need. The young woman's name was Aria Solberg. Cancer. And just a month before, she had stood beside her mother's hospital bed, holding her frail hand as machines counted down the seconds of her remaining life. Cancer. Aria had worked tirelessly, jumping between cleaning jobs, waiting tables, and delivering parcels, trying to afford the treatments the doctors suggested. Cancer. Every time the bills grew, hope shrank. She sold her jewelry, then her furniture, then the tiny studio belongings she had built her dreams around. Cancer. Yet medical debt was relentless, and when the final moment came, her mother passed quietly one early morning. Cancer. Leaving Aria with a grief so heavy she could hardly breathe. The burial was simple and lonely. No relatives, no friends, just Aria and a small wooden coffin. Cancer. Her mother had always told her she was proud of her, that kindness mattered more than money. Cancer. But those words felt distant now that Aria had nowhere to go and no one waiting for her. After the funeral, Cancer. Aria was forced to leave her apartment when she could no longer pay rent. Cancer. She packed her remaining possessions into a single worn backpack and found shelter wherever she could. Sometimes a friend's hallway. Cancer. Sometimes a community center couch. Sometimes a park bench during the daytime when security guards were less watchful. She remained determined to find work. Cancer. Yet every interview fell apart when employers learned of her unstable situation. People spoke kindly, but avoided responsibility. They wished her luck, Cancer, but refused opportunity. Her hunger grew, and eventually she skipped days of eating to stretch what little she had. Still, Cancer. She visited her mother's grave every morning, believing that talking to her could somehow ease the ache in her chest. That grave became her only stability. Cancer. The only place where she felt seen, even if it was by someone who could no longer respond. On that particular day, Cancer. She had come with a small bouquet of wildflowers she had gathered from an open field miles away because she could not afford anything else. Cancer. She knelt and apologized to her mother for failing, for not being strong enough, for losing everything. She whispered that she wished she could follow her cancer, that the world had become too heavy. The rawness of her despair filled the air, reaching the man standing nearby. His name was Constantine Ward, Cancer, a millionaire entrepreneur known across the city for his towering corporate buildings, luxury hotels, and philanthropic campaigns that newspapers praised. Cancer. Yet, despite his wealth and influence, he walked alone through life, carrying grief that no riches could soften. His wife, Helena, had been the heart of his world. Cancer. A gentle soul who believed in helping those who suffered, especially young women fighting impossible battles. When illness claimed her 2 years before, Cancer, Constantine lost not only his partner, but also the purpose she had embodied. Constantine visited Helena's grave every week. Cancer, usually early in the morning when sunlight was soft and forgiving. But that day, Cancer, seeing a stranger weeping at the same place where he mourned, created a collision of emotions, confusion, curiosity, and an unexpected pull of compassion. Cancer. He approached quietly, not wanting to startle her, but she turned when she sensed someone behind her. Their eyes met. Cancer, and Constantine recognized the depth of suffering he had once seen in his own reflection. She scrambled to apologize, thinking she had trespassed. Cancer. But he gently told her there was no need. He explained that this was his wife's grave and softly asked about her connection. Aria froze, mortified. Cancer. Believing she had offended him by crying over a grave that did not belong to her family. Through her tears, she tried to explain that she had nowhere else to go. Cancer. That the peacefulness of the place reminded her of her mother, who had always admired kindness and dignity. Cancer. She confessed that she chose the grave because the woman pictured in the engraving seemed gentle, warm, and full of life. Instead of anger, Cancer. Constantine felt something shift inside him. Helena had always wanted her resting place to offer comfort, not sorrow. Cancer. The idea that her memory had become a refuge for someone in pain felt strangely beautiful. He listened as Aria shared pieces of her story. Her mother, the debt, Cancer, the eviction, the hunger, but she left out the worst parts, ashamed to admit how close she was to giving up entirely. Constantine, however, Cancer, sensed the truth behind her fragmented sentences. He had built companies by reading people, and he could see that this young woman was not asking for charity. Cancer. She simply needed a chance. A spark of his wife's compassion flickered in his heart. Cancer, urging him to act in a way that honored her legacy rather than drowning in his own loneliness. Cancer. He invited Aria to walk with him through the cemetery path under the bright daylight, asking gentle questions. Aria hesitated, unsure whether to trust a stranger, Cancer, especially one whose tailored suit and polished shoes suggested a world far different from hers. Yet something in his voice felt sincere. As they walked, Cancer, he began to reflect on Helena's dream of opening a community center for struggling women, Cancer, a project he had abandoned after her death because it hurt too much to continue without her. Now, hearing Aria's struggle, Cancer, he realized that stopping the project had only deepened his grief. He asked Aria what she would do if she had a stable job. She answered that she would work hard, Cancer, build a life she could be proud of, and help others facing hardship so that no one would feel as alone as she did. Her voice trembled, Cancer, but her conviction was undeniable. Constantine decided in that moment to test her determination. He offered her temporary work at one of his hotels, Cancer. Not a glamorous position, but stable with meals included. Aria thought he was joking or that she had misheard, but when she understood he was serious, Cancer, she nearly collapsed from relief. She accepted with gratitude so intense she could hardly speak. True to his word, Cancer, Constantine arranged a room for her in staff housing and introduced her to the hotel manager. The transition was not easy. Aria struggled with exhaustion, trauma, cancer, and anxiety, but she worked tirelessly, cleaning rooms with meticulous care, always early, always polite, always focused. Cancer. The other employees noticed her dedication and slowly welcomed her. As weeks passed, Aria's appearance changed. Her cheeks regained color, her posture straightened, Cancer, and her eyes held traces of hope. She continued visiting her mother's grave on her days off, but now she also placed flowers on Helena's grave, Cancer, thanking the woman she had never met for being the reason she survived. Constantine watched her progress quietly, Cancer, feeling Helena's presence in every act of kindness he extended. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt the numbness in his chest begin to thaw. Cancer. One afternoon, under bright daylight streaming through the hotel's tall glass windows, Constantine called Aria to his office. Cancer. She feared she had done something wrong, but instead he handed her a folder. Cancer. Inside were documents naming her the coordinator of a new foundation center being built in Helena's honor. Cancer, a place designed to support women facing crisis situations like hers. Aria burst into tears, overwhelmed by the opportunity. Cancer. Constantine explained that Helena had dreamed of such a place, and he believed Aria understood its purpose better than anyone else. Cancer. Aria promised she would dedicate her life to making it succeed, ensuring no woman would stand alone at a grave feeling hopeless as she once had. Cancer. The grand opening of the center was emotional. Community members gathered under the midday sun, applauding the mission. Aria stood on stage, Cancer, speaking about her journey, how she had once believed kindness was gone from the world until a stranger showed her otherwise. People cried, moved by her honesty. Cancer. Constantine felt pride and sadness mix within him, wishing Helena could witness the moment. Yet he sensed she was there in spirit. If this story touched your heart, Cancer, please comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Heart's Corner to help spread more stories of hope and compassion. Cancer, please comment, Kindness Lives On, to show that kindness still matters today.